Hi again. Welcome to another video in my series about intra-fandom issues. I'm kind of self-conscious that most of these are going to come across as unfair or one-sided criticisms of the community that I feel most part of. So I want to say right off that at no point do I ever want to seem like I don't have faith or great love for the community, because I really do. But loving something without acknowledging its flaws can be dangerous. It's because I love the fandom so much that I want to talk about things like this and just make people aware of how things could be better. Criticizing something doesn't mean you hate it, it's kind of the opposite in this case. I want to stay here, but in the same way I wouldn't want to live in a house without windows, there's just some stuff that needs attending to. I speak a lot about how no drama can hurt people, and it really does, because silence helps abusers and bigots just get away with it. But I know this has been said many times before, and to be honest, I wish it didn't even have to be said in the first place, that this was already a fandom where anyone could feel safe and welcome. This isn't the content I'd ideally have the time or energy for, but I'm not a dancer or an artist, and I'm too disorganized to stream properly right now, so yeah, I guess here we are. Thanks for sticking around so far, if you have. Anyway, to get started, the biggest commodity in furry is commissions. Whether it's art, fursuit, sometimes stories or edits, these are the big trading points where someone can make a living in the community. It's likely how we found our way into the fandom in the first place, and it provides a majority output of our expression, whether we create it ourselves or buy someone else's time to have it done for us. The community exists around art, and it's something to really be proud of that we can all exist in a sustainable, growing community around individual artists with more or less no outside corporate sponsorship at all. Everybody should have the chance to enjoy art as they want to. There are so many thousands of artists and makers and personas out there, so the hidden argument in a very specific niche community when all content is potentially relevant is, how can there be a way of enjoying all that self-expression incorrectly? It's a very tricky situation to navigate when you find out one of your favorite artists has an abuse problem, or a habit of drawing underage characters, or zoophilia, or racial appropriation, or hate symbols. How do you deal with that? The simple solution is just to drop them. You can't undo any commissions that you've had made, but it doesn't stop the love you felt for them at the time you supported them in earnest before things came to light. But it's understandable to be upset at that if you have so much invested in them already, and to have something so meaningful to you shaded by controversy. But be angry at the person who originated the harm, not the people who tell you about it. They're literally trying to keep you and others safe from future issues. A more complex solution is to try and mediate, usually by appealing to the figure's better judgment about an apology or a change in viewpoint, but this is where things fall into heated debate territory very quickly over whether someone has the right to adjust someone else's mentality. I've talked a lot about this on Twitter, and if the artist or fans adopt the "they don't have to apologize" stance, it's like trying to get through a brick wall that always promised you, tacitly or explicitly, that it was a door. What happens with no drama is, in practicality, no accountability, and frankly, that plain sucks. Because with that, nothing changes, and divisions get deeper. Superficially, wanting to be in a community devoid of conflict is a fine goal, but that ignores the problems that cause the hurt in the first place. Bigotry and willful or even accidental hurt is not just opinions. They are harmful behaviors, and they damage a community when they're allowed to continue or given a free pass because you like the content they're associated with. And the issue is, addressing the problem takes an immeasurable amount of time, management, and persistent vigilance. It needs us to deal with whatever fundamentally ugly truths have been unearthed about the people within the community. That's infinitely more important than idle pleasantries. Putting fresh newspapers over old puppy turds still leaves your house smelling like dog shit. And plugging your nose in denial only helps you deal with the smell. The bigger, recurring problems come when someone's egregious behavior blows up for a week or two, they cry cancel culture, and then shift right back into their position of popularity, or somehow become even more overblown than before. The ways in which this happens is kind of a phenomenon of an interaction on social media and the consumer mentality of a silent majority of furries, which is taken advantage of by people who refuse responsibility for their actions. That's where we as a community have to take responsibility for them, whether that's in cutting a Patreon or YouTube subscription, unfollowing, or merely choosing to focus on others instead. But how does this social media dynamic work in their favour? The notifications that you're following someone awful happen very quickly after a controversy breaks. It's a running joke that problematic furries will have something blow up, take a 2-week break, and reappear with a new video or whatever, and everything goes back to how it was without the resolution of anything they were initially called out on. Part of this relies on social media's inherent mechanics. It's designed to keep you, first and foremost, addicted. It's also designed to bring you a maximum amount of content as efficiently as possible. For a fandom which, by and large, has a very short attention span, this creates an opportunity for stuff to slip by in numerous ways, notwithstanding people's ability to curate their feeds in the first place. So even from the very beginning, you'll have people who don't see the information, are far enough removed to not know how to act either way, e.g. it's not my business, who don't care or just enjoy watching the firefight, or are too invested in historical, nostalgic, or reputation connections to make a move that would unseat their position. See, this is part of the reason why controversies can seem so vehement at the time they break or recur, because getting people to act on anything that doesn't directly benefit them or offer a quick return of investment is often extraordinarily difficult and requires a lot of energy. And you can't just do it once. You have to constantly remind people of the issue's existence to raise awareness and get support, because social media moves faster than your post will be shared. I mean, try selling a book to see what I mean. This puts whistleblowers, survivors, and critics at an immediate disadvantage, where close friends and those familiar with detrimental circumstances will see a need for empathy and support. There's a big enough crowd there just to be furries to obscure them, and your boring or uncomfortable to read real-world problems are not for consideration when there's so much delicious fursuit butt to scroll through. But people who implore you to take action aren't necessarily prudes or saboteurs or content police. They're asking you to support their friends, or perhaps even themselves directly. And that brings about the bigger issue at large, one that probably overrides all of these, when fans are so invested in a content creator or friend that defending their indulgence is the absolute top priority. You'll come across threads of immediate apologism and logically incoherent justification such as, but they were nice to me, or they couldn't have hurt you because their content is so wholesome and they seem nice, and then, where's the proof? Innocent until proven guilty, down to outright baseless, ad hominem attacks on the person speaking out. Because to some, bringing down fandom content is the worst thing you can do. Some creators know this and take advantage of it with sickening precision. The more they distance themselves from issues people don't like talking about, the greater their appeal to a consumer-driven fandom who just want their fix. As a bonus, the longer they go without talking about it at all, the more negatively the people who perpetuate the call-outs appear, because to all intents and purposes it looks like they're the ones being most disruptive to people's fandom experience. They're the ones getting rid of the problem are the problem, not the ones causing it in the first place. Because people don't want to be subjected to things that make them uncomfortable. For those who actually need the support, and newsflash, that does not include your favourite bigoted YouTuber or zoophile fursuit maker, this is heartbreaking. One abuser, in whatever form, is always too many, and we can help keep them out, warn others, or help them rehabilitate. True, yeah, going through a problematic furry's entire follow list to individually message people is not practical. But when you have a specific evidence of someone who attracts an audience of potentially similarly vulnerable age group, there's still a duty of care to take as much action as you would anywhere else. Arguably, that takes far less energy as it happens than trying to build a grassroots campaign to unseat entire websites with artists who are already financially assisting them. But this brings us back to the comfortable apathy some furries wallow in like a chicken in a dust bath. Some common threads. If it doesn't affect me, why should I care? This is the most self-involved and insular take, because perhaps if you want to stop this drama you claim to hate so much, you should be choosier about who you extol the virtues of so they don't become such a contentious figurehead. If you put as much effort into caring as you did not caring, everything would be several magnitudes more enjoyable for everyone. I follow them, but I don't support them. Supposedly appeasing, but ultimately apathetic, and usually covers up a fear of missing out. I hate to break it to you, but to anyone except yourself, this makes absolutely no difference whatsoever. To the person you supposedly don't support, you add to their numbers and boost confidence in their voice that they likely don't deserve. To your followers who have an issue with whoever it is, you look like a supporter. Seriously, it is better for your own well-being and that of those around you to not hate follow or keep tabs on drama. I separate art from artist. Good job on your privilege. You've outright stated that none of what they do affects you, you don't care that it affects anyone else, and you're willing to contribute to them as long as you get something out of it. All of these attitudes are selfish, but this is the one that tries to keep your foot in both camps to appease everyone, but really only benefits you and the person in power. It does nothing to reset the status quo and just makes you look insincere. I'm not making any decisions until I see proof. Apathy is not a good look on you, and you have no idea of the damage you do by making such demands. You are declaring that someone's personal story isn't enough for you to believe them. Granted, if this is a stranger online you've never seen before, then there's no trust dynamic, but a significant proportion of the time, where furry is concerned, you also haven't met the person you're defending. Even when fans have been presented with direct evidence, they still denied it, and you're just adding to the circle jerk of willful ignorance by not making an informed judgment based on your own disposition. Despite the amount of callouts I read, share, support, and sometimes generate, I am more invested in the fandom than I ever have been, and I have some incredible friendships that I hope never to lose. If I consider this either casually or just as a mercenary means of furthering only myself, everyone would be seen as competition, and overall it would just be a miserable experience led by jealousy and opportunism. I guess to finish off, don't be surprised if, when you're presented with information about someone being hurtful and you ignore or deny it, that people turn away from you. Nobody can compel you to drop something meaningful to you, but to me, the value of something is immediately lost if I know it's hurt someone I care about. I won't lie, it can really suck, especially with some very brutal or visceral revelations about someone formative to your experience. But it gives me the opportunity to find even more artists who aren't like that and give them the chance to be successful. That's an awesome feeling. And they're literally right there already waiting to be found to show you all their cool stuff and cruelty-free organic artwork. Because in truth, you, by yourself, probably don't matter that much to someone with 100,000 subscribers. But to someone with only 20, who dreams of being a full-time artist someday, you mean so much more. I promise, I absolutely guarantee that you lose much less than you think you do by taking that first user with closet racist or transphobic jokes or history of covered-up abuse out of your feed, or lose that artist who, although their work is gorgeous, also retweets misogyny and close-minded takes. Your need for furry consumption will be more than fulfilled by those with a genuine heart for all of the community, and your timeline will be full of so much less belligerent and poisonous self-defense and apologism. If you want a drama-free timeline, don't follow people who are dramatic. It's very, very simple. Popularity is a circumstance, not a virtue. People who are compassionate and inclusive and focus on others as much as themselves are a much more integral part of the community than pyramids of self-invested cult popularity. Well, I guess that sentence could probably have summed up the whole video at this point, but never mind. And you never know when a person being highlighted for being hurtful or abusive realizes that they're only left with people who legitimately don't care if they're an arse, and fun fact, these people themselves are usually also arses, it may compel them to take a genuine look at themselves. It doesn't always happen, but it can, and that can be a reward in itself. People genuinely making an effort to listen and change for the better absolutely deserve second chances. A true, meaningful apology in and of itself isn't a mark of shame and shouldn't be waved around as a flag of defeat. A genuine apology is an acknowledgement of wrongdoing or misunderstanding and a promise to do better. It's a good thing. I am already more than willing to take account of painful things I've said and would expect the same of other furries too. It makes all of our experiences better when we are open, inclusive, take time to listen and boost others who do the same. There is a ton of love and acceptance in this community. Please be sure it's love and acceptance for everyone and not just the popular. Thank you.